It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, December 16th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is very, very thankful this day for one Carter Hart.
Yeah, he was spectacular.
Unbelievable performance against the Devils. We'll talk about that. We'll preview the Rangers game this weekend and talk about some more GM Board of Governors meeting news coming up next.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Locked On Flyers. That's where you'll keep up to date with the latest on our episodes and Flyers news. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Locked On Flyers is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you are listening. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube. So subscribe over there as well. Russ, we had a bit of a surprise before the game with some upper body injuries for Patrick Brown and Max Willman, and that is really what necessitated the Olle Lycksell call-up, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens. Sometimes that's what it takes to get a break in this league, and so this stuff happens to everybody. I was happy Lycksell got in there. Hope he can get a few more games in so he could show off
Yeah.
his offensive abilities. But this wasn't going to be the one. But that's this is what happens. That's why it's good to have guys you can call up.
Exactly. Tony DeAngelo was put on non-roster status while he continues to deal with that family matter. But Zach McEwen checked back in. Good to see he was ready to play in this one.
And he didn't play much, 9:45, but he did play.
He did. So obviously, as we said at the top of the show, this was the Carter Hart story.
Oh yeah.
This 2-1 win, 48 saves on 49 shots. He was very busy for a good portion of that game, all of the game, and he had some really wicked shots against that Jack Hughes goal, obviously, notwithstanding, that
Nobody
was
could do anything about
nobody.
that.
No, I was just staring at it like,
Even a video
wow.
game goalie couldn't stop
I
that.
know. I know. It was absolutely incredible. Like, Jack Hughes is the real deal. But, aside from that, he weathered the storm on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
The 6-on-5 at the end, I think, was slightly better than they've played at it overall defensively, but still Carter Hart had to come up with a bunch of key stops at the end of the game as well. And he was just dialed in.
Yeah, he stopped the breakaway, he stopped 2-on-1s. I mean,
Mhm.
he was stopping point blank shots. There was definitely times when the offense of New Jersey was overwhelming the Philly defense, and Carter Hart was the difference. Like he just was.
Mhm.
I don't care about shots on goal. Like I'm a guy who this is why, I don't care that a team outshot somebody 25 shots. Um, to me, it doesn't make a difference, right? Because the other team that had the fewer shots won. But for the goalie, it makes a difference.
Right.
And man, was he worked. And now, so you do have to think with all these games that he has played, you got to put Sandstrom in against the Rangers. Like you can't put Carter Hart in against the Rangers. I think it's too much. I think based on what his workload has been and what it was in this game, I think that would be a bad move in my eyes.
Yeah, I could see them putting Hart in anyway because that's what they do. And there is a game against Columbus next week that maybe Sandstrom could check in on, but we shall see what their decision turns out to be. I want to talk about kind of the upside of this game, Scott Lawton scoring on the power play.
That was big.
It was huge. We talked about him specifically needing to step up a little bit more. He gets those power play opportunities sometimes. And he now has 4 points in his last 6 games, 2 goals and 2 assists. So he could be trending back in the right direction of getting on the board a little more.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Lawton was scoring was huge. I mean, you could see the weight lifted off his shoulders. He played a really good game. He was effective. And this is what I'm saying. I mean, with all there is still talent on this team, Carter Hart included, and that's why they are capable of winning these kinds of games. And think about it, they won without Kevin Hayes. I mean, he
Yes,
essentially
we
played 9
are.
minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that, but I want to stick to the upside here
No, that's
because
fine. I mean, that is the
I'm a glass
upside
half
though.
full.
But that is
Yes,
the upside because they won without
yeah,
Kevin Hayes, they won without Tony
that's true.
DeAngelo. They banded together. That is a big upside. It's a big upside as a team, and they don't have a lot of those this year.
Yeah, and Noah Cates continues to have really solid play, and I talked
Yeah,
about wanting to get him on the scoreboard a little bit more. 2 assists in this one, and
yeah.
very key ones at that on both goals, especially on the breakaway, though.
Yeah, listen, Cates gets it. I mean, he was 57% on faceoffs. He's he got his 2 assists. He's in the plus column. He played a lot of power play time. He played
Mhm.
penalty kill. I mean, again, we never want to say that it's too much for anybody, but he's 23, so this is he's kind of at his peak at the moment, and hopefully he continues because it's big for this club.
Yeah, and the Flyers were above 50% on faceoffs overall, and Cates was really good, and Morgan Frost was really good on them in this game as well, which was good
61
to
and a
see him.
half. Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, so let's talk about Kevin Hayes. What happened there?
I think, I mean, when Kevin Hayes is sort of gliding out there and he's not playing both ends hard, it really bothers the coach. And I don't know. I don't at this point, the kind of veteran that he is, he should be able to overcome this, but maybe he doesn't want to. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a little battle going on here, and Kevin Hayes is going to lose. Nobody wins these battles with John Tortorella. Nobody.
No, and I think that as much as he's been on the score sheet, I think that for Torts, it's all about the effort,
It
and
is,
so
and that's the
that's
thing.
a
It's
thing to
about
keep watching.
yes, we have to keep watching. It's about the effort. It's the two-way play. It's have you decided not to back check? Have you decided not to go in the corners? Like these are decisions that he's making. And when he makes those decisions, then the coach makes the decision to not play him. And that is a coach's prerogative. Like you're not just because you're getting that money and just because you're the team's leading scorer, you're not guaranteed that ice time.
Yeah, Ivan Provorov did not have a great game.
No, no.
It was one of his, like, last season games. I really think he'll be fine, and he'll get back to it, but I just think this was one of those nights for him.
He's had a lot of minutes. I mean, he has had
Mhm.
a lot of minutes this year, and he's gonna have some bad games. There's no question about it. Um, I just look at it and say he's a reliable guy, and sometimes you just have to be thankful that the guy can get out there and do it every game. And once in a while, he's going to have a stinker. I mean, it happens for every defense is that kind of position. It's a
Right.
position where you're mostly going to make mistakes.
Yeah, and people are gonna notice your mistakes more than the
Yeah,
good that you do.
yeah.
That is for sure. How did Olle Lycksell do in your estimation in his first game back up?
I think he did fine because he mixed in well. He didn't do anything to stand out poorly or in a great way, but uh like he had a kind of like a Max Wilming game, which for the first game to kind of get settled in there, that's okay. I mean,
Yep.
that I think that'll get him another game, especially if the injuries are continuing, because you got to see what you got. And right now, for him to get the call up, he probably didn't know he was going to play. Like just to kind of rush in there, I think he was all right.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he does need to settle a little bit. I saw like he just didn't like have the kind of anticipation he normally does because he was playing with new guys, and
Right.
that just takes, a game or 2 to
It
get back
will.
into it. So, I obviously I want guys to be healthy, but at the same time, I would like him to get this opportunity and get a few more games in.
Yeah,
Um,
one more stick tap for Rasmus Ristolainen because he's been playing really well. He's played well in this game. I think fans should ease up on him now. I think he has fit in his new role. Again, he this is like another new role they've asked him to play because now they're asking him to be completely different than when he was in Buffalo for all those people that like to hate on him. So I've been impressed with him.
yeah, I think so too, and I like that pairing. I would never have expected to like
No.
that pairing at the beginning of the season, and it's absolutely working right now for the most part. Obviously,
Yeah,
the Flyers' overall play has some effect on that, but I do think it's something worth continuing
I agree. I
for
keep
a
it
while
going.
now.
Yeah, keep it going.
Yeah, and one more thing, I wanna talk about Travis Sanheim on the power play because he has been, a guy that we've said, "Give him more power play time, give him more power play time," and it's come up with, like, mixed results. I did think, that 4-minute double minor power play between the first and second was pretty abysmal, and he was out there for part of it. But I do think he needs, again, more sustained time to really decide if that's something they can continue to use him at.
Yeah, I mean, this is a trial and error year. They're gonna have to see what they can get out of him in that situation, and just keep. I mean, I would try it a few more games.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, we got away with that one, 2-1 against the Devils. Up next is the Rangers, and we'll talk about them next.
And now, an important message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many, and the evening comes to an end, and people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows the risks of drunk driving. The results are often tragic and often deadly. However, that doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available wherever you get your podcasts. Russ, we have the New York Rangers coming up on Saturday night, and the Rangers have been headed in the right direction. They were a little shaky for a while, I
They
gotta
were.
say. Yeah, there was a little bit of that panic going on that we were talking about yesterday related to the Devils in the Rangers franchise for a bit, but they've now won 4 in a row before last night's game against the Leafs, which I certainly hope was a good one because it sounds like a good one on paper, but we don't know how it
They're
will
two
have turned
valuable
out.
teams on paper.
Yes, we will get to that in the next segment, of course. But I think that the Rangers have gotten back on track. They beat the Devils 4-3 in overtime. They won against the Avs in a shootout. They really dominated against Vegas, winning 5-1, and they won against the Blues. But I think the most important part is they're a healthy team, which seems pretty rare these days.
It is rare. Yeah, they are healthy. Uh, Panarin has started to score. Zibanejad was cold at the start of the season, and he has heated up. Chris Kreider has heated up. He was also starting slow. I mean, look, he's not going to get 52 goals again, but he's still going to be a force. And so Shesterkin, at the beginning when they weren't doing well for the first, month and a half, wasn't playing great. Now he's playing better to the point where Cale Makar questioned whether he had to make a glove save the way he did, saying that he was just showing off. That's funny when players want to go at goalies like that. Goalies love that, by the way, because then they know they've gotten into the player's head to some degree. So that stuff has started to happen. And really, since that, all of that has kind of gotten their mojo back a bit.
Yeah, if you recall when we saw the Rangers last, it was way back on November 1st when the Flyers were still winning some of the games that maybe we thought they wouldn't, but they did lose that one. That was a brutal game because if you recall, it was 0-0 at the end of regulation, and the Rangers won in overtime on
Yeah.
that breakaway by Chris Kreider. Oh, so
Yeah.
frustrating because the Flyers had held the Rangers really well over the game in regulation,
And
but
since then, the Flyers have done so much better. And oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, Russ. The Rangers are fifth in the Metro right now, 5-4-1 in their last 10, compared to the Flyers, who have been 2-6-2. So we see how that's been going. But I think one of the more interesting stats on the Rangers right now is they have the most scoring chances for per 60 in all situations in the NHL right now. And you look at their lineup, I believe that stat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they again, even against the Devils, they had. I think they came back from two goal deficits in that game.
Mhm.
So they do have the offense for that, but they have some. They still have some warts in their game that you could take advantage of too.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I think that, they're just kind of mid-league on the power play and
Hmm.
penalty kill, despite, like, you look at their first power play
Oh
unit,
yeah,
and it's horrifying as the other team to look at. I mean,
yeah,
it's, you got Trocheck, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, and Fox. Like, what
right,
could go wrong? But
right.
they're still, like, just at 16th in the league on the power play, so they can be stopped.
Yeah, oh, no question they could be stopped, and a lot of times they stop themselves. So
Well,
that's
true.
that is something that is plaguing them right now, because otherwise they would definitely be a better team. So as the Flyers' penalty kill has gotten better here, that could be a key thing. Do you want to put them on the power play? Probably not,
No.
because you don't want to be there the game that they break through. But they are stoppable.
Yes, they are, and, if you look at their scoring and their defense overall, we've talked about the 3-goal threshold that you really have to get to have a really strong chance to win that game, right?
Yes,
And so they're just over that 3 goals per game threshold right now this season and are at 2.8 goals per game against over the season. So, they do let up some goals.
they do, no question. And the Flyers could take advantage of the third pair. Schneider, Braden Snyder is a good player. He's not a great player yet. He still will make some mistakes. Libor Hayek, if he's in there, is not very good at all. So with the Flyers being the home team, that's the pairing I want to get matched up against more often, and definitely if I could, with 5 minutes to go in a period, so I can maybe get a goal before you head to the locker room. That kind of thing. I have to be thinking about that as a strategy. Uh, on the other end, you do have to worry about their top two lines. The bottom two aren't as good, but for as long as that kid
Mhm.
line stays together, uh, Kako's doing better. Lafreniere is scoring a bit more. Hedel a smidge more, but that line together has been doing better. And so if they leave that together, they have good energy. But still, you'd rather take your chances against that line than you would either of the top two. Fourth line's not a big deal on the Rangers. It's going to just be a typical fourth line. But yeah, I that's if I'm the Flyers, I've got to match up, Risto and Provorov against their top line,
Yep.
and hope the others can be up for the challenge. The second line would be the one that, like you always say, but the second line will be the harder of the challenges that way. And then yeah, don't put them on the power play and try and expose their third pair, and then see who's in net. I really don't know who's going to be in net for that one. I'm going to guess
No.
it could be Halak, but it also could be Shesterkin because there's a day in between.
Right.
So there's some guessing there. But if it's Halak, uh, I would really test him side to side. He's not moving the way he used to. You put a lot of shots on him, that could do something. Shesterkin's the opposite. If you put a lot of shots, he likes a lot of work. That's really not going to cause a problem With Shesterkin, you really are going to have to try and, measure your shots a little bit more. Getting them moving's fine. Getting any goalie moving's fine, but he still may stop you because his the spread eagle that he can do in net is one of the best, if not the best, in the league. He seems to be getting it together a little bit more lately. So
Right.
I think you got to get him in close, and you got to really, like I said, go that tic-tac-toe route that they've done before. You got to work on a few of those kinds of things. Try and get those kinds of opportunities. Maybe a stretch pass, maybe a breakaway.
But
Those
not
kinds of
too stretchy because
not
they
too
tend to
stretchy.
get intercepted.
No, that's true. Not too stretchy. That's fair. And for whatever reason, Shesterkin's never been scored on a penalty shot, which is crazy.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, the other day there was one on him and he stopped that too.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, looking at this Rangers team, I think one of the things they're going to have to focus on is being really strong down the middle
Yeah.
because, you look at Zibanejad, Trocheck, and then Hedel, who, I've said this before, but Hedel is like an Achilles heel for the Flyers for some reason. He always seems to get a ton of extra chances
Bigger
against the
guy.
Flyers. Yeah,
He's got strength and he does go to the net. Those kinds of guys know that the Flyers have a hard time clearing the crease. They just do.
they do. So I get against this Rangers team, it's especially important because they have a lot of guys who can muscle the puck. They have a lot of guys who can, make quick passes and smart passes. And I think
And
that
Hart needs to be
that's going to
careful
be,
in this one
yeah,
because we know sometimes with the stick he's not the greatest, and the Rangers have a bunch of guys that are very adept at looking to see where he's going to be clearing the puck and try and steal it. Conversely, Shesterkin always overplays the puck, but he's really good at it. But if you're on the Flyers end, you have to try and maybe get along the wall and try and intercept those clears every once in a while if you can. It's the only thing you can do against to battle that. But the thing about Shesterkin is, though, he will get that headman pass once or twice a game to kind of get a guy in stride, whether it's on the power play or otherwise. And you as a defense have to be ready for that. So they have to, like you said, they have to be built more for speed in this game than they do anything else. They're, the physicality, sure, there's if the Flyers want to play that game, they can too. They've got Sammy Blais. They still have guys, even though Reeves isn't there. That's
right.
They're not really worried about that. Goudreau is there, Barkley Goudreau. Like they have guys that can do that. But I think the bigger thing is, yeah, you've got to just be prepared for that speed.
All right. Saturday night it is. We will find out how this one goes. Really, really hoping the Flyers can win this one. Just from, a personal standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
since I live in New York, as well
Mm-hmm.
as, for the Flyers. But we are going to talk about some more things we learned from the GM meetings and team evaluations from Forbes coming up next. Russ, there have been some discussions ongoing for a while now, but I think they've sort of surfaced a little bit more in the more recent GM meetings and mostly related to the schedule that we haven't talked about yet. And for the regular season, I think that they're looking for ways to capitalize more on the rivalries in the league. And I don't know, I have my doubts and misgivings about some of the things that have come out of this, but one of them is a way where they would have up to 8 games against in division teams in a season and lower the number of games. Like maybe you'd only play the teams in the other conference once instead of getting a
Right.
home and home.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm not against it. What I think ends up happening is uh, we just grow weary of everything. Like I think we complain about everything. I remember it used to be there's too many division games. So then the league said, okay, now there's going to be less division games and everybody's going to play everybody because that didn't always happen. And then that didn't serve it. So then it was like, all right, we'll go back to more division games, but not as many division games as there were before. And we'll keep having you play the other teams. Like I just think we just keep shuffling the deck chairs, and I do think it just has to do with where stars are and what who people want to see. So like if you're Edmund, if you want to see Connor McDavid, there's one shot every year for everybody. That's
Right.
it. And because this is where I give the NHL credit. NHL teams don't sick guys for load management or anything like the NBA does, who rest their stars. So if you're a Flyers fan, you want to see Connor McDavid, 99% chance you're going to see him. So that's good. Beyond that, they could make some other changes. I don't get that bothered by it either way anymore.
Yeah, I get that to some degree. I just keep thinking about the games in the bubble, right?
Yeah.
Where, and this is what this was inspired by because it seemed to
Hmm.
be popular, right, in the ratings, and nobody could attend those games. So it was, the gate didn't really matter.
Right.
But um, I just remember being so sick of playing these teams over and over again, where they like shuffled the divisions, and it was nice, getting to see a couple of different teams, because they moved. It was like Columbus and Carolina got moved out of
Yes.
division at the time, and so it was nice to see them again when they shuffled them back. But man, I just was so sick of those teams, and there's got to be a happy medium here. And I guess it does change when you have superstars in different places,
It
like you
does.
were alluding to. So, for a while you do want to see Edmonton, but what if you don't want to care as much about Edmonton anymore? Like Connor McDavid isn't there. So,
Yeah, like Columbus has Johnny Gaudreau, who's a local
mhm.
favorite. Like people in this area definitely want to see him. Now they can see him more than once a year. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so I'm more for the happy medium where maybe we get 1 or 2 extra games against the rivals, and maybe you do drop the other conference and it's every other year now, right? Um, I think, where you have 1 game against them, either home or away,
Right.
depending on the schedule. I think
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay with that. Jeff Follett had a really interesting idea, which will never fly because it reduces the number of games in a season. And but you say if you play every team home and home, which would be 62 games, and then at the end of the season, all bunched together, you have more games, one each home and home with just your division rivals. So that's 14 games for a total of 76 games in a season, which gives the players more rest.
The only thing is, even getting past the 6 games lost revenue,
Right.
the league, what they've done is they have really done a lot to cut down on extra travel, and the home and
Right.
home adds travel and travel cost. And so I think it would get shot down first, even just for that.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be more in the end because if they put them in the right order, so it's like a road trip,
I don't know for
I don't,
sure, but it
and
feels
they're
like it.
closer.
I could be wrong. It feels like it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think that it's always an interesting discussion, and
Oh
I
yeah.
think it is reactionary to your point,
It's the
where
hardest. It's the hardest job in sports.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I say it's reactionary in the sense that they want to maybe make some adjustments to react to how things are now, but by the time they get implemented,
Yeah.
things have changed again, and so
Like
it's
by the time
constantly
Connor
shifting
Bedard,
goalposts.
like let's just say Connor Bedard, for argument's sake, he becomes
An Anaheim Duck.
Anaheim Duck, right? Well, all of a sudden you want to see Anaheim more because you want to see this Bedard kid. So yeah, I mean that's a factor.
Yeah, always a mess there. Uh, Talking about other things, we alluded to the Rangers being the most valuable franchise
Hmm.
in the earlier segment, and they are still the most valuable franchise. Forbes just came out with their top NHL lists, and the Flyers are down at number 8, and
Now tell me
with
what the Flyers are worth.
1.25 billion.
Well, the value of the Flyers in 2000 was 240 million.
I mean, that's a long time,
That's
and in inflation,
it's a good
but
investment. Well, I mean, inflation doesn't mean your value goes up though.
well, that's true.
So it's a nice thing. The Rangers, just to show you, they were at 263 million back then, but the Flyers were second in the league, and now they're eighth, and that is something. Again, they renovated. One of the things I've noticed on this list is the newer, more renovated stadiums tend to add a lot more worth to
Yes.
teams that have the older, decaying ones. But the Flyers fan base has also decayed a little bit, and that is why they're at eighth. They really should be in the top five if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I don't know, it's, and it is interesting because if you look at some of the teams that have been bought by conglomerates or, like these global sports conglomerates or have had some success in recent years, their value has gone up tremendously, and
Mhm.
you look at the LA Kings, they're worth 1.3 billion,
I
right?
think
That's
it's the
above the
LA
Flyers.
Live the LA Live thing
Yeah.
there that it draws a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
So now they sell out more, people spend more money down there, plus the area is worth more. One place that I was surprised at that isn't as good as I thought would be with the Islanders at 12 because brand new arena, have been successful. They're in the fourth richest county in the United States in Nassau County. Or if you want to say, hey, they're not really in Nassau because it's Queens and Long Island, fine. The closer you are to the city, the more things are worth anyhow. So either way, it's a very valuable property. Surprised it's there. And really, Vancouver at 13, I was like shocked. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's pretty low.
it's pretty low. And then some of them are really low. Ottawa doubled, though, right? I think they doubled
Yep.
since they've been spending money. And the thought that they may get a new place, definitely getting a new owner. Ryan Reynolds was interviewed by Gary Bettman the other day. I'm sure that was fun for both. So um, you could
And,
see,
Seattle Kraken come in on this ranking for the first time,
yeah,
at number 10, and
which
you
is a
can
big
see
deal.
why.
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
deal. And Tampa, I think, rate got like a 21% bump or something, and that's what going to the Cup all these years does for you. So think about it. Like some people are like, Florida, it stinks. You can't do anything. Tampa's going to argue with you on that.
I wouldn't, doubt that for a second, but, yeah, it's interesting how things have changed over the years in the value of these franchises, and some of the newer kids on the block are making strides, but some of the old stalwarts are holding fast as well, with Original 6 still,
The original
the
six
top
is the
4.
key in this league. It
Mhm.
it always has been, and I think it always will be. I mean, for the most part. Like I said, there is an opportunity like for a team like the Flyers to go in the top 5, but original 6 will always be in the top 10. If they're not, something's really wrong.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for today's show. We'll be back again on Monday. We're going to recap that game against the Rangers. Plus, we'll have our nemesis of the week. Always a good time. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in your mailbag questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers or Instagram at the same handle. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. It's the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available wherever you get your podcasts.